It's Canada Day, but all eyes in South Florida are on the Miami Dolphins because this move is shaking up the league. Miami has made waves by sending Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and a seventh round pick to Pittsburgh in exchange for Minkah Fitzpatrick and a fifth rounder. The reaction: it's been loud, it's been divided, and it's far from over. Meanwhile, a familiar name is starting to circle back into Dolphins territory: Michael Mayer. Yes, Miami is reportedly showing serious interest in the Raiders' tight end, but will Las Vegas actually listen? Before we dive into the latest, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video, and don't forget to tap the bell icon so you never miss a Dolphins update. Now, let's get into it. You've got to be kidding. This Dolphins trade is still sending shockwaves through the league. Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith out. Minkah Fitzpatrick back in aqua and orange. And yes, Miami also picked up a fifth round pick while sending off a seventh. But the real story? The reaction. Pittsburgh fans are in their feelings. Loud, frustrated, and clearly not over it. And that says everything. When the opposing fan base is this upset, it's usually a sign you came out on top. Let's call it what it is. Miami made a statement. They cleared Jonnu Smith's bloated contract off the books, they shipped out a veteran in Ramsey who had injury concerns, and in return, they landed one of the most dynamic safeties in the league in Minkah Fitzpatrick, a player who never should have left Miami in the first place. Now the conversation shifts to this. How does Vic Fangio, a master of disguises and discipline, unlock Fitzpatrick's full potential in this new-look defense? And don't forget about Raheem Mostert, either. His recent comments suggest this locker room is locked in, focused on what's ahead, not what's behind. There's real belief inside that building, and this trade only adds fuel to the fire. Let's talk about what the Dolphins really did in this trade, and why it's bigger than just names on a roster. They weren't going to sit around and wait. With tensions rising, they moved decisively, offloading Jalen Ramsey, who, according to Terran Armstead on Nightcap, was never going to suit up for Miami again. That chapter was already closed behind the scenes. In total, the Dolphins shed over $25 million in salary and brought back about $15.5 million on Minkah Fitzpatrick's deal. They even paid $3 million of Ramsey's salary to grease the wheels on the trade, ultimately saving around $7 million in cash by moving off Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. And let's not forget, Jonnu just got a massive raise and is now set to earn $12 million in 2025. Miami made a smart financial play, but this move wasn't just about cap space. It was about fit. Fitzpatrick's versatility gives Anthony Weaver all kinds of flexibility. You could see him roaming in a single high look, splitting duties with multiple safeties, or lining up over the top in 3 safety packages. Guys like Isaiah Polamau and Ashton Davis will likely rotate, while Ifeatu Melifonwu could fill a hybrid role. Think of how Baltimore used Kyle Hamilton. Expect Kader Kohu to see more action on the boundary than most are predicting, and keep an eye on how Minkah brings physicality in the run game, something that was sorely lacking last year with Jordan Poyer. Rookie Deshaun Trader, he's walking into an ideal mentorship situation, learning directly from a 3-time All-Pro. And the best part? The contract structure gives Miami control. If Minkah doesn't perform, they're not locked in long-term. But if he delivers, and history says he will, they've added a proven playmaker at a key position. Forget the noise about communication issues or past drama. Dolphins fans have heard that story before. They said the same about Butch Barry, and look what he did with the offensive line once he had real talent to work with. This trade isn't just a win, it's a calculated reset. Miami's defense just got sharper, faster, and far more dangerous. Let's clear something up. When people talk about this team at full strength, they're not talking about depth pieces. They're talking about that offensive line when it was firing on all cylinders. The same unit that dropped 70 points on Denver. That was Connor Williams, Isaiah Wynn, Robert Hunt, Terran Armstead, and Austin Jackson. When those 5 are healthy, it's a different ballgame. So before people start drawing wild conclusions about what this team is or isn't, Let's remember what that offense looked like with all 5 starters on the field. Now, the talk around Minkah Fitzpatrick's return has even caught the attention of players around the league. George Pickens showed love publicly, and that says a lot. Fitzpatrick isn't just respected, he's feared. And now he's back in a system where he can thrive, especially under that Miami sun. There's been buzz about Raheem Mostert too, and sure, he had a monster season, no denying that. But let's be real, no coach gave him the kind of opportunities Mike McDaniel did. 20 touchdowns, solid payday. That doesn't happen everywhere. It happened in Miami. Let's keep it moving though, because the safety room has quietly turned into one of the most exciting units on this roster. If Ifeatu Melifonwu stays healthy, and with Minkah Fitzpatrick now leading that group, you've got something brewing. Rookie Deshaun Trader is one to watch, and Patrick Morris is another name making noise. If Ashton Davis holds up physically, this group could be a real force. Now, the big question becomes, can the cornerback room match that level? And like we've been saying, don't be shocked when Kader Kohou lines up on the boundary more often than expected. It's been hinted at all offseason, and nothing's changed. When ESPN dropped their grades on the Dolphins Steelers blockbuster, it confirmed what a lot of us already believed. Miami came out on top. Seth Walder handed the Dolphins an A, while Pittsburgh walked away with a C, and for good reason. Yes, everyone knew Jalen Ramsey wasn't going to be in a Dolphins uniform in 2025. But the surprise? It wasn't just that he got traded, it was who came back in return. Minkah Fitzpatrick, a 3-time All-Pro. That's what turned this deal into one of the true shockers of the offseason. ESPN emphasized what made this so lopsided. Miami offloaded an aging corner with injury concerns and a bloated contract, plus a tight end in Jonnu Smith who just secured an overpaid raise. And in return, they brought back a difference maker at a premium position, along with future flexibility. And it's not just about names. Fitzpatrick fills a strategic void in Miami's defense. He gives Vic Fangio, or any future DC, the ability to disguise coverages, rotate pre-snap, and finally play that aggressive single high look without compromising safety on the back end. Meanwhile, the Dolphins created cap space, cleared locker room friction, and brought in a player who's still operating at an elite level. This wasn't just a trade, it was a reset. Smart, calculated, and perfectly timed. And with Fitzpatrick now leading a reloaded secondary, the Dolphins aren't just getting better, they're getting dangerous. The Miami Dolphins pulled off a front office masterclass, not just in roster construction, but in financial maneuvering. Let's get one thing straight. No one expected a team to take on the full weight of Jalen Ramsey's post-raise contract. Yet, somehow, Miami found a partner in Pittsburgh willing to absorb nearly all of his $26.6 million salary for 2025. And this wasn't just a rental. That number climbs to over $21 million annually from 2026 through 2028 under non-guaranteed team control. That kind of cap relief, it's rare. And the Dolphins capitalized. Instead of restructuring or eating a chunk of salary to force a deal, they shipped Ramsey and Jonnu Smith out cleanly. The return? A game-changing safety in Minkah Fitzpatrick and a 5th-round pick, all while trimming over $10 million in 2025 cap obligations. Fitzpatrick, who made another Pro Bowl last season, comes with a controlled, team-friendly deal. $15.5 million in 2025, $17.6 million in 2026. For a 3-time All-Pro still in his prime, that's outstanding value, especially in a defense that now leans heavily on safety versatility. As for Jonnu Smith, yes, he's coming off a strong year in Miami, but that was a career high, not the norm. His production before 2023 was largely inconsistent, and now he's heading into a $12 million contract year. Miami sold high, exactly when they should have. This was never about just getting rid of players. It was about flipping uncertainty into stability, turning expensive maybes into proven leaders, and doing it all without sacrificing flexibility or draft capital. The Dolphins didn't just win the trade, They reshaped their roster and future cap health in one move. Smart, strategic, and exactly what a contending team needs to keep pushing forward. Let's bring this full circle. Yes, losing Jonnu Smith hurts in terms of depth, but the Dolphins' offense has always been designed to run through Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and that's not changing. With a healthy Devon Achane in the backfield and a reloaded line, expect 2025 to shift targets and touches back toward Miami's core playmakers. Smith's breakout last season was impressive, but Miami was never going to pay him top dollar based on one career year. And honestly, that's smart cap management. They had bigger priorities. The safety room, for example, had to be addressed after Jevon Holland walked in free agency. Miami responded quickly and cleverly by adding Ashton Davis and Ifeatu Melifonwu on budget-friendly deals. Then came the real headline. Minkah Fitzpatrick returns, giving the Dolphins a Pro Bowl caliber presence at free safety, and, ironically, on a deal similar in value to what the Giants gave Holland. Miami also came out ahead in the draft pick swap, upgrading from a 7th rounder to a 5th rounder as part of the deal. That's a win in itself, especially considering where they started. One disgruntled vet and one player pushing for a raise they weren't willing to give. And here's where things get even more revealing. Sources around the league suggest Jalen Ramsey was pushing for a trade to a few specific teams, the 49ers, Chargers, and Rams. Of those, only the Rams showed real interest. But they reportedly wanted extra compensation just to take on his contract. Think about that. Los Angeles didn't just want Ramsey. They wanted Ramsey and picks. Instead, Miami flipped him, without giving up draft capital, and came away with Minkah and a better pick. That's not just good business. That's a win with style. As for Pittsburgh, word is Ramsey wouldn't agree to the deal unless they gave him a raise. And they did. That tells you exactly what Miami avoided, paying top-tier cornerback money to a player trending toward a hybrid safety role. Miami stuck to their principles, managed the cap with precision, and added leadership in the locker room and on the field. Let's be honest, when you're getting paid $26.6 million, you'll line up wherever the team needs you. And that's exactly the situation Jalen Ramsey is walking into in Pittsburgh. Corner, safety, linebacker, doesn't matter. He's getting top-tier cornerback money, so he's going to say all the right things and play wherever they tell him. But that's Pittsburgh's concern now. From Miami's perspective, this trade was executed with precision. Seth Walder laid it out clearly. This wasn't just a win. It was a win from a tight spot. Miami had limited leverage, only one serious trade partner, and a player pushing for more money and control. Instead of folding, the Dolphins flipped the situation. They didn't give up extra picks. They didn't eat most of the contract. They found a team willing to take it all, and in return, got back a 3-time All-Pro in Minkah Fitzpatrick and moved up in the draft. Let's be real. Other teams wanted Miami to pay them to take Ramsey, and Miami said no. That's how you hold the line. Sure, the cornerback room now needs depth, and the tight end group might need some reshuffling, but in terms of long-term value, cap flexibility, and immediate roster impact, this deal checks every box. This wasn't just a front office win, it was a power move. And for anyone saying the Dolphins lost this trade, let's be clear. They're either not paying attention, pushing an agenda, or rooting for the other side. Miami didn't just survive this situation, they dominated it. At $26.6 million this year, Jalen Ramsey is going to do whatever it takes to justify the paycheck, whether that means playing corner, safety, or even stepping into a hybrid linebacker role in Pittsburgh. That kind of salary doesn't just buy versatility, it demands it. But let's bring it back to what matters: Miami. The Dolphins were in a tough spot. They had a veteran player they needed to move and limited leverage with only one real team expressing interest. And that team, according to multiple reports, wanted Miami to pay them to take on Ramsey's deal. Instead, Miami flipped the script. They made a clean exit. No added picks given up, no dead cap eating away at flexibility. In return, They brought back a 3-time All-Pro in Minkah Fitzpatrick and moved up from the 7th to the 5th round in the draft. That's efficiency. That's control. Yes, Miami now has to reinforce the cornerback depth and take another look at the tight end rotation. But trades like this aren't about plugging every hole. They're about maximizing value in the moment. And Miami did exactly that. Let's be real. Miami's tight end room is thin. And now things are heating up. Reports have surfaced that the Miami Dolphins are showing serious interest in acquiring tight end Michael Mayer from the Raiders. This isn't out of nowhere. The groundwork for this possibility actually goes back months. As early as March, there was already talk that the Raiders were open to moving Mayer, with multiple teams reportedly checking in. Around the same time, the Raiders brought in Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator, a move that may have shifted Mayer's long-term fit in their plans. Fast forward to now, the Dolphins have just dealt Jonnu Smith, their only 2024 Pro Bowler, as part of the blockbuster that also sent Jalen Ramsey to Pittsburgh. That leaves Miami needing help at tight end, especially if the offense wants to keep flexibility in 11 personnel looks. And here's where Mayer makes sense. Unlike someone like Kyle Pitts, whose skill set doesn't quite match what Miami needs, Mayer is closer to a traditional Y tight end. He can line up inline, flex out wide, and still keep defenses guessing about whether it's run or pass. That type of versatility is a perfect fit for Mike McDaniel's system. Sources now say Miami has had its eyes on Mayer for a while, and they're actively talking to teams about tight end options. The interest is real. It's not just speculation anymore. So now the question becomes, will Las Vegas play ball? The tight end rumor mill is spinning, and Michael Mayer is right at the center of it. Let's break it down. The Las Vegas Raiders drafted Brock Bowers in the first round of 2024, and he wasted no time making his mark as one of the NFL's top rookie tight ends. On top of that, they brought in veteran Ian Thomas through free agency. Suddenly, the tight end room in Vegas is crowded, and that's exactly why Mayer's name started popping up in trade speculation. Miami was linked to Mayer as early as March, and that wasn't by accident. League buzz suggested the Dolphins were among the teams doing background on him. The front office knew tight end depth was going to become a concern, and they were already scouting solutions before the Jonnu Smith trade even happened. Then came the mixed signals. One Raiders insider, Vincent Bonsignore, initially said that Mayer was a piece other teams had been calling about and that Vegas might be open to moving him at the right cost. But shortly after, he walked it back, stating the team had no interest in trading Mayer. Confusing, right? But let's read between the lines. Mayer himself said in a spring interview that Chip Kelly's new offense could lean heavily into 12 and even 13 personnel, meaning multiple tight ends on the field. He believes he'll have a big role in that system. Still, that doesn't mean the door is shut. The reality is this: if Miami puts a legitimate offer on the table, Las Vegas will have to consider it. You don't stack tight ends at that level and then completely ignore potential trade capital, especially if you believe in Bowers as the clear TE1. And Miami, they're watching all of it closely. They've made it clear they're not done reshaping this roster. And if they think Mayer can be the long-term answer at tight end, they'll push to make it happen. Let's be honest. The timeline matters. If the reports about Michael Mayer being on the trade block had come before Chip Kelly was hired in Vegas, it would be easier to believe the Raiders changed course. But that's not the case. Kelly had already been in the building for nearly a month when insiders started reporting that multiple teams were doing due diligence on Mayer, and that Las Vegas was open to moving him. That tells us something. This isn't a hard no, it's a wait-and-see scenario. And if the Miami Dolphins make a real offer, the Raiders will listen. They may posture publicly, but let's be real. When you've already got Brock Bowers emerging as a star and Ian Thomas added in March, how many tight ends do you really need in high-leverage spots? It just doesn't make long-term roster sense to sit on 3 starting caliber tight ends unless you're actively planning to move one. And if the Dolphins step up, don't be surprised if Mayer is the one they ship out. The truth is, this all smells like leverage building. Float a player's name to gauge interest, then pull back and deny it when a serious suitor steps forward. Standard trade playbook. Especially when that suitor is a team like Miami that just cleared cap space and has a glaring need at the position. Bottom line, if the Dolphins bring a fair deal to the table, Las Vegas will make that call. Let's talk about the big question now. What would it actually cost the Miami Dolphins to trade for Michael Mayer? Surprisingly, probably less than people think. Some believe it would take a day-2 pick to pry him loose from Las Vegas, but that may not be the case. In reality, a 4th-round pick might be enough to get the Raiders to listen, and possibly even deal. Here's why. First, the Raiders already have a rising star in Brock Bowers, and they just signed Ian Thomas. That's 3 tight ends with significant potential or NFL experience. Mayer's role could shrink quickly, and Vegas may prefer to gain value now instead of letting him become a depth piece. From Miami's perspective, giving up a 4th-round pick for Mayer makes sense. It's unlikely they'll find a tight end of his talent level with that selection in next year's draft. Remember, Mayer was one of the most complete tight end prospects to come out of college in years, a standout at Notre Dame, and a true wide tight end who can block and stretch the seam. Sure, the numbers haven't jumped off the page yet, just 304 yards and 2 touchdowns in his rookie year, followed by 156 yards in year 2. But let's not ignore context. He's been catching passes from a revolving door of quarterbacks like Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, and Desmond Ridder. It's been chaos under center. In Miami's offense, with Tua Tagovailoa under center and defenses stretched thin trying to cover Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, Mayer's production could absolutely spike. 500-plus yards? Very possible, especially as a reliable blocker and underneath target. And the contract? It's a steal. $2.5 million cap hit this season, $2.9 million next, and $1.6 million in savings if the Raiders trade him now. That's the kind of low-risk, high-upside move a smart front office makes. Miami has the cap space. Miami has the need. And Las Vegas has the surplus. If a 4th-rounder gets it done, the Dolphins need to make that call. And that wraps it up. From the blockbuster return of Minkah Fitzpatrick to the cap-clearing departure of Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith to Miami's pursuit of Michael Mayer, this offseason has been anything but quiet for the Dolphins. The roster's getting leaner, smarter, tougher. The secondary looks poised to take a leap with added depth and experience. The offense, while thin at tight end for now, still runs through elite playmakers. And the front office? They're clearly not done making moves. We're watching the team evolve in real time, and the season hasn't even started yet. Stay locked in. The Miami Dolphins are playing chess, not checkers. Until next time, fins up.